Joining us live this morning for further analysis, trial attorney Jeremy Rosenthal. Good morning to you, Jeremy. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning, Jeanne.
So a lot to discuss, coming out of that debate now to this other hot topic, this blockbuster ruling from the Supreme Court as it relates to presidential immunity. For the viewers that are unfamiliar with the importance of this Supreme Court ruling, could you give us some background, please?
Well, you remember in elementary school or middle school, you learned about Marbury versus Madison. That is the ultimate separation of powers case. This opinion is probably the most important separation of powers case really since then. Basically, what we have to do is we have to decide what the president can and can't do in the furtherance of his job, and at what point is he subject to criminal prosecution. If on one end, we all would like to think that the president of the United States cannot take a bag of cash in the White House in exchange for a bridge or a defense contract, right? We know that that's bribery. We know that that's clearly illegal. On the other end, you've got other executive actions. The arguments that were raised in the Supreme Court were that President Kennedy, during the Bay of Pigs invasion, collaborated with Cuban nationals to overthrow the Cuban government. Probably in there might be a federal crime or two, right? When you read the federal laws, they're very broad. I don't know that he committed a crime or didn't, but the point is that one is clearly in his role as commander-in-chief and it would be in the United States' benefit to overthrow the communist regime of Fidel Castro. On the other end, where is that line between presidential power, presidential authority, and personal power and personal responsibility? So Donald Trump is arguing, and his lawyers are arguing, that he gets total immunity. They're not going to do that. I can't fathom a universe where the U.S. Supreme Court says, when you're the president of the United States, whatever you do is legal. That's just not what's going to happen. But probably what they're going to do is they're going to get their X-Acto knife out, and they're going to, in all likelihood, carve out some distinctions that for personal responsibility, personal criminal culpability versus, okay, this was in the role as the chief executive, this was in the nation's best interest, or the president thought it was in the nation's best interest. Something like that. But this is, like you said, blockbuster. I think it may very well be.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you provided that perspective, Jeremy, because that's really the controversy that surrounds it. You see headlines, you see people that aren't really familiar with how court proceedings work, and they put out there, well, if you want to do something illegal, just become the president, when that's not really what this is going to allow. Nevertheless, that is the controversy that surrounds it.
That's right. And President Trump's argument was that, look, when you're the president of the United States, do you subject yourself to rogue individual prosecutors? I don't know that the Supreme Court can do anything about state liability or anything like that. But this very much impacts the future, right? And I think that what we have to do today is everybody who gets, when we get this news, I mean, the Supreme Court is either handing down this opinion or they're getting on their bench one last time and thanking all the court staff and throwing a big buffet. I think what they're going to do is issue this opinion. When they issue this opinion, we have to think about it. First off, we got to read it, and it's going to be more than one page, and there's not going to be any pictures on it. And a lot of times our first take is not the right take because these are very detailed opinions, and sometimes the lead story is on page 37 of these things. So it will take everybody a little bit of time to sort of decipher this. But also, we don't want to look at this through a result-based lens. You can insert the name of any president who you love or hate in the name of that executive, and that's going to be the rules by which they're going to have to conduct themselves for the next 50, 100, 150 years until the U.S. Supreme Court visits this again. It's been a long time since Marbury versus Madison, maybe a very long time until the Supreme Court decides something else like this.
Jeremy, we all know the phrase timing is everything. And thinking of the timing of when this could come down, we know that they are supposed to come together around 10 o'clock this morning Eastern time. But, people were thinking this decision, this opinion would come down last week. We heard about social media, homelessness, reproductive rights, but not until after that first presidential debate of 2024 are we now getting a ruling in this. I want to ask you, with your expertise with, court systems, was there a reason for the Supreme Court justices to wait for this decision?
I think so. My law professors who didn't think much of my legal analysis are going to be very proud of this. There is a book written by a constitutional scholar by the name of Alexander Bickel. It is called The Least Dangerous Branch. And what it says is that the Supreme Court does everything they can do to stay out of politics, because the rule of law means that we have to voluntarily follow the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the least dangerous branch because they don't have an army like the executive does. They don't have the purse strings like Congress does. We follow the Supreme Court and we follow what judges say because we believe them, because we follow the law in this country. So the first way for them to lose our attention is to inject themselves directly into politics. We had a big debate last week. I would think very strongly that the reason why the Supreme Court waited until now was because they wanted to at least get a little detachment from that. They're not in control of this, and I don't know that they knew when they took this case what the timing would be, and it wouldn't matter anyway. But that's why I think they're saving this one till last, and they're going to go on vacation and be done with it.
Jeremy, always a pleasure speaking with you here on Live Now. We thoroughly appreciate your expertise and perspective. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we let you go?
Just to reiterate, when we get an opinion from the Supreme Court, they're long, they're detailed. The nerds, we like to read all the way through the thing. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes the lead story is going to be on page 37 in this thing. So there's going to be a lot of flashbang. Oh, they're doing this. Oh, they're doing that. Give it a day, give it 2 days to soak in what it says. They're going to have to go back in all likelihood to, in Trump's case, back to the district judge, back to the trial judge, and they're going to have to sort of reassess in light of this opinion. So the process is going to go on. I think for Mr. Trump, I would be extremely surprised if any opinion just completely wiped out that prosecution for the January 6th case that he's facing.
Trial attorney Jeremy Rosenthal, always a pleasure. Thank you so much again for joining us this morning on Live Now from Fox. You enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.